For the last 4 months, I've been riding this, the new Giant Defy Advanced Pro, to find out whether it's the best endurance bike you can buy right now. For many people watching right now, this isn't the first time you've seen the bike on the channel. I've done 2 videos on it already. And if you just want to know how it rides, what it's like to live with, and how it compares to other endurance and race bikes, then do skip ahead using the chapter links down below. But if you are new around here because you haven't yet subscribed yet, what you're playing at, hit that button down below. Then let me give you a brief recap of what this bike is all about and who it's aimed at. The Defy is Giant's endurance road bike, designed for long days in the saddle where comfort is a priority. Think a more relaxed fit and geometry than a race bike like the company's own TCR. This new bike gets space for 38mm wide tyres, complete with mudguard or fender mounts, a lighter and more aerodynamic frame, full internal routing and improved comfort, largely achieved from a D-shaped seat post which can flex up to 7mm and a matching handlebar. This new model now comes in 3 levels with the introduction of a range-topping SL for the first time, and you can see my review of that bike linked in the card above. But today we are focusing on a mid-range Advanced Pro. Giant has always been a brand that offers excellent value for money, and that's still mostly the case, but as with most bikes these days, they do cost a lot more than they used to. So the Defy range starts from £2,300, which I think we can all agree is pretty accessible, and goes right up to nearly £12,000 for the SL model I rode last year. This model sits bang in the middle of the range and costs £6,000, for which you get a carbon frame, fork, wheels, handlebar, seat post, an Ultegra Di2 12-speed group set, and Giant's own dual-sided power meter, which is worth pointing out. And you even get details like a computer mount and 2 bottle cages in that price as well. Now, for comparison, to put that price and specification in perspective, a Trek Domani SL7 costs you the same amount of money, and you also get a carbon frame, fork, wheels, and Ultegra Di2 group set. But you certainly don't get a dual-sided power meter, and you don't get a carbon handlebar. So to upgrade that Trek with a dual-sided power meter and a carbon handlebar would probably cost you about £1,000, give or take. So it definitely makes the Giant look better value for money than that Trek. So does the new Defy actually deliver? Well, let's hit the road and find out. So how does a Giant Defy Advanced Pro ride after 4 months of living with it? Very, very nicely indeed. It really is a Goldilocks road bike. It's neither too stiff, racy and aggressive, nor too upright and lazy and slow. It's plenty fast enough for me to go flat out fast and compares well to tarmac and my own TCR on the same roads, climbs in terms of speed. So it's no slouch. It's definitely not holding me back. My position, 181 centimeters tall on a size ML, the same as my TCR race bike. It is nicely stretched, a nice position to the hood. I can crouch down and get nice and aero, and the drops, well, feel like a race bike. It really does feel like a race bike. It's a perfect middle-aged race bike. You could race it, I think you could, but you wouldn't. But if you enjoy smashing around your local roads, as many of us do, I certainly do, trying to just give yourself a good workout and go as fast as you possibly can, the bike performs so well. I really am impressed with the package, but it's not for everybody. I think some people wanting and expecting maximum comfort and that more laid-back fit will be disappointed with the bike. The Specialized Roubaix offers a much more upright position, better on your lower back, less stretched out, and way more comfort, both through the handlebars and through the saddle as well. The Trek Domani also offers a smoother ride in the saddle, so while the bike is smoother than the TCR, the difference isn't massive, and I think my TCR, or even that tarmac with 28 or 30, is pretty close in terms of how well it deals with rough roads. Those bikes certainly aren't rough and harsh, and this bike isn't buttery smooth in comparison. It's definitely smoother, but the margin between this endurance bike and a race bike is smaller than a Roubaix and a Tarmac, for example. I do like the fact the geometry is just that bit more relaxed and laid back than a TCR. So when you're doing long, steady rides on your own, just getting the miles in or just enjoying the views, just a bit calmer and a bit more pleasant. The steering is still quite lively though, it's still quite an engaging bike to ride. It's just enough engagement to keep you excited and switched on, but not so snappy through the corners as a TCR race bike. I do think for a lot of people, perhaps myself included, this is probably a better bike than a race bike unless you're actually racing. But if you're not racing anymore, but you still want to ride a fast bike, but with more comfort and a slightly easier fit, then I think the new Giant Defy is arguably the best in class. The option to fit wide tyres and mud guards to the bike makes it a perfect 4-season bike. So for the last 2.5 months, or so 4 months I've been riding this bike, I've had full-length mud guards on it from Giant with optional flaps, and it is a perfect UK winter bike. Going out in all weathers, rain, shine, hail, with the mud guards, the fatter tyres, the extra traction and comfort. It's a bike that lets you smash out the miles, get your training in, much more enjoyable than riding indoors on a smart trainer, as good as they are these days. And I see the decisions behind this bike really appealing to a lot of people. People who used to race perhaps and want a bike that can fit wide tyres to, perhaps the option for mud guards if you live in the UK, and a slightly calmer geometry and a slightly more laid back fit, but aren't ready yet for a very upright bike and a bike that could potentially feel slower than a race bike you're used to. This is a race bike, but just dialed back ever so slightly from 11 to 8, whereas many endurance bikes dial it right back to 5 or 6. So after 4 months of riding this bike, let me share some likes and dislikes. And I'll start with likes first. As I mentioned previously, I like the fit, the geometry, the way the bike rides. I like the specification on this bike, from the faultless Ultegra Di2 12-speed group set, and the dual side power meter from Giant is a nice detail. It's always nice to get carbon fibre wheels on a new bike, and these wheels are hookless and tubeless and come set up tubeless with the company's own 32mm wide tyre. And these have been fuss-free, I've had no issues, nothing to report at all. I know there's lots of fuss around hookless, but in 4 months of testing these wheels, they have given me no issues at all. I am running nice low pressures, 50-55 psi in the 32mm wide tyres for my body weight. Loads of comfort, and I've hit some potholes and cracks and cattle grids pretty hard with the wheels and tyres and had no issues with the tyres exploding off the rims or anything crazy like that. And there are lots of good high quality upgrade tyres available to fit these wheels from Continental, Pirelli, Goodyear, Michelin and many more that fit these hookless wheels with no issues at all. These are pretty decent weight for the money as well, sub 1500 grams, nice bladed spokes with a bit more aero, and the hubs, the bearings have been nice and reliable, and a free hub engages quickly and given me no issues despite riding through some pretty torrential rain for the last few months. Giant still uses a press fit bottom bracket, PF86 to be precise, and in 4 months of riding it's given me no cause for issue at all. And on my own Giant TCR, which I've had for over 2 years now, with the same bottom bracket system, that also doesn't creak or squeak or cause any noise at all. So for me, a press fit bottom bracket on a Giant frame is a non-issue. And the last like is the internal routing, which does look very clean and modern. I don't mind that actually, and makes fitting a bar bag much easier as well. But this leads me on to the main dislike with the bike, is that the routing system does require you to use a Giant stem. You can't use another brand of stem unless they make one compatible, and I don't think any companies make one yet for this new D-shaped stereo tube inside, which are used to create space for the hoses without going to a larger headset bearing. But Giant do make a wide range of stems, both aluminium and carbon fibre, and this one is the right length for me in the right angle, so I have no reason to change it, just you can't if you want to. And we have a two-piece setup as well, so you can change the handlebar if you prefer a different handlebar, but you will lose that defuse technology if you go to a different handlebar. So some flexibility around the cockpit, but not as much as would be nice. Perhaps the biggest challenge to the new Defy is the fact that modern race bikes are no longer battering rams to your lower back. And for some people, I don't think the Defy offers a big enough step forward in comfort over those race bikes with a wide tyre fitted, at least not compared to a Roubaix or a Domani, or even the Enduro from Canyon with a novel split seat post. But for some people, that marginal improvement in comfort without isolating you from the ride experience might just be the perfect sweet spot for the bike you're looking for. So time for my verdict on the Giant Defy Advanced Pro after 4 months of riding it. As you've discovered over the last few minutes of video, there is lots to like and not much to dislike. But all that said, it's not an easy bike to recommend. If you are a retired racing cyclist and still crave the need for speed, but want a bit more comfort and bigger tyres and a more relaxed fit, then the bike really ticks a lot of boxes. But I think a lot of people will be put off by the lack of comfort and that more relaxed fit that you get from other bikes in this category. For me, well, I bloody love it. It's a fantastic bike, but it does make my TCR race bike a bit obsolete, because this bike delivers all the speed I really need for the riding I do these days, and it still indulges that need for speed that I still want when I ride a slick-tired drop bar road bike like this. Anyway, if you want to see some of the other best endurance bikes you can buy right now, then do watch this video right up here. Got any questions about this bike, feel free to leave a comment down below, and hopefully you enjoyed the video enough to hit that subscribe button down below. Right, I'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much for watching.